Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Your support means the world to us and helps others discover stories that share clarity and inspiration on the path of self-discovery. Thank you so much. Let's begin.
Chapter 1. Why does this even matter? Have you ever caught yourself standing on the threshold of an important decision, wanting to take a step forward, but hearing a question in your head, what will people think? And it doesn't seem like anything terrible, but it's precisely this question that paralyzes you, constrains you. Why does this happen? Why is the opinion of those around us so important? Actually, it's not a weakness, as many are used to thinking. It's an ancient mechanism ingrained in us by nature itself. In distant times, belonging to a group meant survival. Being banished meant condemning oneself to solitude, and therefore to death. The tribe decided everything. It provided food, protection, warmth. Any difference, any manifestation of otherness was a risk. Back then, everything was simple. If they didn't like you, you were out. Millennia have passed. We build cities, launch satellites into space, create artificial intelligence, but our psyche still lives in that primitive reality. It whispers, be like everyone else. Otherwise, you will be rejected. And so you stand there, trembling inside, afraid to do something wrong, not because it's dangerous, but because your subconscious doesn't distinguish that it's the 21st century now, not the times of mammoth hunting. You can live in a metropolis among millions of people. You may know that no one will deprive you of food for a strange hairstyle or unconventional thoughts, but your fear remains. It lives in the shadows, deep in your subconscious. Thousands, millions of people every day ask themselves the same question. What will they say about me? Afraid to dream, afraid to be themselves, afraid to be different. But let's think about it. Who are these people whose opinion we fear so much? Do we know them? Do we owe them anything? Why does their possible approval or condemnation become more important to us than our own life, our own dreams, our own desires? Yes, all these questions are not new, and perhaps you have asked yourself them hundreds of times. But why then is this fear of the opinions of others still here? When you begin to realize the nature of these thoughts, you begin to see your dependence on the opinions of others is not reality. It's an old phantom, an illusion. But to finally get rid of this illusion, you need to dig deeper. Because the fear of being ridiculed, condemned, rejected is not just a weakness. It's a system that comes from the distant past, a system that has been created by society for millennia. Chapter 2. The Mask of Approval. From our very first days, we begin to be taught not only to speak, walk, count, but also to be right. Smile when it hurts. Agree when you feel uncomfortable. Be a convenient child. Don't stand out. Don't interfere. Don't attract unnecessary attention. And this learning happens imperceptibly, softly, through praise for good behavior and through punishment for bad. We are given guidelines for behavior in society, but the truth is that these guidelines are subjective, and they were created not at all for you to be happy. They are needed so that you can function normally within the system. Yes, normally, from the word norm. You do something your own way. You are corrected. You express an unpopular opinion. You are condemned. And you learn. Being yourself is unsafe. Little you puts on the first mask, the mask of approval. You understand, if I want to be loved, I must be not myself, but who they want to see me as. School only reinforces this program. Standardized tests, unified requirements, and again, adjustment, adjustment, adjustment. You learn to evaluate yourself by other people's standards. Am I good? Am I smart? Am I beautiful, successful, right enough? But in whose eyes? Who are these invisible judges before whom you are constantly taking an exam? And so, having grown up, you almost no longer distinguish where your real self ends and what is built from other people's expectations begins. You go to a job you don't like because it's necessary. You keep silent about your real dreams because it's stupid. You wear clothes that fashion dictates, not your heart. You live someone else's life. Because somewhere inside you, a child still lives who is afraid of being condemned for sincerity. And society encourages this. Because obedient people are easier to control. They are easier to manipulate. You can sell them dreams they never needed. Impose values that are alien to them. Understanding this, you begin to see the mask of approval is not yours. It was put on you. And you wear it because you believe that without it you will be alone. But that's a lie. True intimacy is born not from adjustments, but from authenticity. Real respect comes when you remain yourself, even if it is inconvenient for others. And to get your face back, you need to start asking questions. Real questions. Uncomfortable questions. Who am I? What do I really want? Who would I be if I weren't afraid of what people would think of me? Chapter 3. The Fear of Being Misunderstood. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You are standing on a stage in front of 100 people. All eyes are on you. Your every word, every gesture, every glance is under scrutiny. How do you feel? Your heart starts to beat faster. Your palms get sweaty. Your brain frantically searches for the right words just so you don't embarrass yourself. But in front of whom? These faces, these gazes, they are not just people. They are images in which the voices of your past are intertwined. Parents who said, "Don't do that. What will the neighbors think?" Teachers who repeated, "Be like everyone else. Don't show off." Friends who judged you for strange dreams or unusual interests. Since childhood, we learned that being different is dangerous. Being understood by everyone is a necessity. Deviation from the norm is punished by rejection. These lessons are imprinted on our subconscious deeper than we realize. They become filters of perception. We automatically interpret every glance, every word, through the lens of, do they approve of me or condemn me? And so you walk down the street and suddenly catch the eye of a passerby. What happens in your head? You instantly start scanning. Is everything okay with me? Do I look strange? Although in reality, that person most likely doesn't care about you at all. We have become hostages of these voices from the past. We have become puppets of our wounds. We are not afraid of the judgment itself, but of the pain we once experienced as small and defenseless children. But today, you are not that child anymore. Today, you have a choice. You can stop. You can ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Afraid of being misunderstood? But is being understood by everyone a real goal? Didn't great ideas always start with someone going against the flow? Weren't great people initially misunderstood, strange, ridiculed? Understanding that the fear of being misunderstood is an echo of the past means taking the first step towards freedom. Not everyone has to understand you. Not everyone has to accept you. And that's okay. Your task is to understand and accept yourself, and the rest will come with time. Chapter 4. Societal Stereotypes. Pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and look closely at your dreams. Who do you want to be? What do you want to achieve? What kind of person do you envision when you think of your ideal self? Now ask yourself a more honest question, one we rarely dare to voice. Where did these dreams come from? Are they truly your own, born from your inner world? Or are they simply a script written long ago by others, by society, family, school, media? We grow up in a world governed by invisible rules, subtle but powerful. We're told, choose a respectable career, be successful, don't stand out too much, but also don't be invisible. We're shaped not through open force, but quiet expectation. If you don't match the standard, you're told, silently but surely, that you're falling behind, that you're failing, that you're less. When you chose your profession, how many times did someone ask, what makes you come alive? Versus, how many times did you hear, choose something safe, something stable, so you don't end up a failure? Even in the smallest things, how you dress, how you speak, what music you like, were those really your choices? Or were you guided by invisible templates, nudged into neat little molds until the mold became the identity. We live in an era of manufactured dreams, a time where aspirations are shaped by algorithms, advertising, and social pressure, where success is no longer a personal compass, but a public performance. If in the past people dreamt of survival, purpose, or creation, now the dream is to fit an aesthetic, to look like the front cover of a lifestyle magazine, to earn like a startup founder, to live in an image, not a reality. But pause again. Whose dream is that? Is there a quiet part of you that's drawn to something entirely different? Maybe you've always wanted to open a quiet bookstore in a forgotten town, or paint in solitude without worrying about galleries and income, or travel the world with a backpack instead of building a 5-year corporate plan. Why are these dreams often dismissed, called childish, naive, unrealistic? Because they don't fit the template, because they don't serve the system. Because society whispers in your ear, be normal, be reliable, be like everyone else. We bend, we conform, we chase goals that were never ours to begin with, and one day we wake up feeling empty, successful on paper, but lost inside. So ask yourself, honestly, whose dreams are you living? This is not a rhetorical question. Sit with it. If the answer brings discomfort, good. That's the beginning of truth. That means something real inside you is stirring, asking to be heard. Letting go of borrowed dreams is terrifying, but not as terrifying as building someone else's fortress your whole life, and one day realizing you never even lived in it. The real courage? It's not chasing more. It's choosing your own dream, no matter how small, quiet, or misunderstood it may seem, because only then are you truly free. Chapter 5. The Fear of Standing Out. When was the last time you wanted to do something differently, but stopped yourself? When did you feel the urge to say something that truly mattered, but held your tongue? When did you want to look the way you really wanted, but instead reached for the safest, most acceptable version of yourself? We live in a strange paradox. On one hand, society celebrates individuality. On the other, it quietly demands that we be correct, the right words, the right behavior, the right angles in photographs, conformity dressed in the costume of self-expression. And whether you realize it or not, you're constantly being persuaded. Deviation is danger, not explicitly, but subtly, repeatedly, so much so that it becomes a reflex. You don't even question it anymore. You just hesitate, retreat, comply. This fear of standing out is not simply a personality trait. It's a deep, ancient imprint, an evolutionary instinct. Thousands of years ago, to be cast out of the tribe meant death. Survival depended on belonging. So, we learned, blend in or perish. But today, that programming is outdated, because now, no one will hunt you for speaking your truth. You won't be exiled for wearing something different or thinking outside the norm. Yet, the fear lingers. And instead of living freely, we censor ourselves, trying to impress an invisible jury. That jury? It's fictional. And here's the liberating truth. No one is watching you as closely as you think. Everyone is wrapped in their own insecurities, their own wounds, their own need to be accepted. Still, you hold yourself back, not because the world will reject you, but because you've been taught that being different is dangerous. But history tells another story. The people who changed the world, the artists, thinkers, visionaries, they were all different, not slightly, radically. Mark Twain once said, "Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect." Those words still ring true. Being yourself often means walking upstream, not to rebel, not to shock, but because truth doesn't always follow the crowd. That said, there's a line worth remembering. Between authenticity and performance, between genuine individuality and the desperate need to appear unique. True difference doesn't scream for attention. It simply refuses to lie. So what does that mean for you? It means giving yourself permission to speak when your voice shakes, to look how you want, even if it doesn't fit the trend, to make choices that feel right, even when they seem strange to others. And it means understanding this. The goal isn't to be different for the sake of it. The goal is to be real, to live a life that belongs to you, not to a projection. Because at the end of the day, the only person you need to answer to, the only jury that matters, is the one inside you. Chapter 6. Uniqueness for the sake of uniqueness. Every day, the fear of judgment pushes us to create images designed to please others. We put on masks, the successful one, the cheerful one, the right one, the one who belongs. We become fluent in the language of approval. And with each passing day, the real me, the quiet voice underneath all the pretending, begins to fade. Until one day, you no longer know who you are. You're not a person. You're a collage of expectations, a reflection of what the world wanted from you, a walking template. And what's even more tragic, sometimes, in response to all this pressure, a protest is born, but not a deep return to self, not a quiet rediscovery. No, it's something louder, angrier, a desperate performance to prove, at all costs, that you are not like the rest. You've seen it. People who shout about their uniqueness, brandish it like a weapon, flash it in every direction even when no one's asking. They reject every rule, not because it violates their truth, but because it exists. Their rebellion becomes another kind of prison. Because blind protest is still a mask. It's just turned inside out. And often, this wild urge to be different comes from pain, from a childhood where every decision was corrected, every instinct punished, where love was given only in exchange for obedience, where survival meant erasing yourself. And so the adult grows up never having tasted true freedom, only control. And in trying to escape, they swing to the other extreme: destruction, addiction, chaos, denial. Not out of strength, but out of desperation. Not freedom, but the echo of captivity. But protest isn't the path to liberation. True freedom, real freedom, is quiet. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't need applause. It exists in the calm, steady knowledge of who you are. It lives in your ability to make choices from the center of your being, without needing to prove or perform. As the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once said, man is condemned to be free. But he added, freedom comes with responsibility. Responsibility to live your life, not the life you were told to live. And not the life you built in rebellion either. Your freedom is not in rejecting everyone and everything, and not in obeying blindly. Your freedom lies in rediscovering the person behind the performance, the soul beneath the script, and then simply living it. Not louder, not bolder, but truer. That is the courage of selfhood. To walk through the world in quiet alignment with who you are, not needing to be understood, not needing to be admired, just being. Chapter 7. The Inner Critic. At times, even after shedding the shackles of socially imposed stereotypes and resisting the temptation of artificial uniqueness, we discover yet another, perhaps the most insidious jailer, our inner critic. This relentless voice echoes in our minds, constantly evaluating, doubting, and devaluing our every action, every thought, every expression of self. Where does this uninvited advisor come from? It is an echo of the past, pieced together from fragments of parental remarks, school grades, painful comparisons with others, and ingrained memories of our own mistakes. Like an invisible censor, it filters our impulses, whispering warnings: don't be silly, don't stand out, you won't succeed anyway. It feeds on our fears and insecurities, growing stronger the more we allow it to control our self-perception. The inner critic can manifest in various ways. For some, it is a harsh and uncompromising judge, ruthlessly pointing out the slightest flaws. For others, it is a quiet but persistent voice of doubt, eroding self-confidence. It can drive us towards unattainable perfectionism, paralyzing us with the fear of error. It can constantly compare us to others, reminding us of imagined successes and our own perceived shortcomings. Interestingly, This inner voice can fuel both conformity and that very hysterical uniqueness we discussed earlier. Fearing to deviate from someone else's standards, we heed its warnings and hide our true essence. But sometimes, desperately trying to silence its reproaches, we swing to the extreme, trying to prove to the whole world, and above all to ourselves, that we are different, that we are special, even if this denial is destructive. Deep down, in both cases, lies the same insecurity, fueled by the inner critic. It is this inner voice that makes us feel constantly under scrutiny. Even when those around us are busy with their own affairs, we automatically replay scenarios of possible judgment in our heads, afraid of doing or saying something wrong. We become prisoners of our own internal judgments, projecting them onto others. As the Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "A man is what he thinks about all day long." If our thoughts are filled with self-criticism and fear, then that is how we will see the world and our place in it. Understanding the nature of our inner critic is the first step towards liberation. Recognizing that this voice is not a true reflection of us, but merely an echo of the past, allows us to begin to distance ourselves from its destructive influence. And then, perhaps for the first time, we can truly look at ourselves without prejudice and allow ourselves to be who we really are, without fear of internal or external judgment. Chapter 8. The Illusion of Attention. Each of us has caught the gazes of others, evaluating, judging, or encouraging, as if our every step, every word is weighed by someone else's eyes. Sounds familiar, right? But the truth is, no one thinks about you as much as you think they do. Let's figure out why. This phenomenon in psychology is called the spotlight effect, when a person feels that they are the center of attention, although in reality, this is not the case. We too often assign ourselves the role of the main character in other people's lives, but in fact, everyone is busy with themselves and their own experiences. Have you ever noticed how often we ourselves fixate on our mistakes, slip up, worry about doing something wrong, but in reality, other people may not have even noticed? You worry excessively about something that wasn't even observed. Every person is immersed in their own thoughts, problems, and worries. They don't remember how you looked, what you said, or how you behaved. They are thinking about what they have to do, about their own anxieties. And when you understand this, it suddenly becomes easier. You suddenly feel freedom. You are not obligated to be perfect for everyone around you. You simply live your life. When you begin to realize that you are not the center of other people's thoughts, a feeling of lightness appears. You stop dwelling for a long time on what others might think of you. You start paying attention to the real things, your goals, your inner world, relationships with loved ones, your worries, your concerns. These are just a reflection of your inner fears and insecurities. But in reality, the world around you is not so focused on evaluating, judging, or criticizing. This is liberating. You can breathe freely, knowing that you are not obligated to meet someone else's expectations. Your life is your life. What matters most is how you yourself perceive it. We are all part of the world, but that doesn't mean we should allow our fears and doubts to influence our decisions and actions. After all, if you stop thinking that everyone around you is constantly watching you, you will begin to act more confidently and naturally. So maybe it's time to try? Chapter 9. Living by your own plan. Have you ever wondered why we so often follow other people's expectations? Why does it seem that all our decisions, whether it's choosing a profession, a lifestyle, or even friends, are made in response to something or someone else? When you begin to free yourself from these external expectations, you come to an important realization. You deserve to live according to your own plan, not according to other people's plans. And this is where your true freedom begins. But for this, you need to understand one important thing. No one really cares about you that much. The truth is, in the global sense, everyone doesn't care. Of course, there are definitely people who care about you, but in general, society doesn't care about you at all. The truth is, no one will spend more than 5 minutes judging you. So is it worth worrying so much for those 5 minutes? Is it worth trying to please everyone for years for those 5 minutes? The truth is, the more you try to please those around you, the further you move away from yourself. You become like a puppet whose every step is dictated not by your desires, but by how you want others to see you. And here, fear enters the stage. The fear of making a mistake, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of not fitting in. This fear limits your actions, turning your life into a reaction to those around you, rather than a conscious movement forward. But when you stop looking back at other people's opinions, the opportunity arises to take your first step in the direction you truly want. You begin to realize that you yourself are the creator of your reality, and you can start building your life according to your own plan. But how do you get rid of the fear that has been sitting inside for so long? The first thing to understand is that fear always appears when you step outside the familiar. We are afraid of what we don't control. But when you face what you fear head-on, you stop being afraid. Fear is just a signal that you are moving in a new, unexplored direction, and there is nothing wrong with that. On the contrary, it is your path to growth. When you start acting according to your own plan, you feel a harmony arising within you. You stop being a victim of other people's expectations. You become more confident, and your actions become more conscious. You begin to understand that your own desires and dreams are not just whims, but an important part of your true essence. And here, an amazing feeling appears: inner balance. This is not something ephemeral. It is a practical state in which you feel that your inner self and the external world are working in the same direction. You begin to live not to please others, but to be honest with yourself. It is when you become honest with yourself that you begin to notice how your reality gradually changes. You begin to make your decisions without looking back at what others will think. You stop living by other people's rules and start living by your own. This does not mean that you become selfish. On the contrary, it means that you become a more mature person, capable of respecting and appreciating others because you first learned to appreciate yourself. So stop worrying about what others will think. Remember once and for all, they don't care about you. Start acting based on what is truly important to you. Allow yourself this luxury. And when you start living your life by your own rules, on your own terms, you will see how this world opens up new horizons for you.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like if this video resonated with you. Thank you for being with us and for listening till the end. There's so much more here that we hope will inspire and motivate you. With gratitude, until next time.